Okay, thank you.
Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Meet the Wetland Scientists. My name is Leanne Stepchinski, and I am a grad student with USF Geosciences in the geology department.
Hi, everybody. My name's Julie Vogel. I have my Master's of Science degree from USF, and I would say I'm a wetland scientist. I get to work at this awesome place called 7 Wetlands for the city of Lakeland.
And with us today, we also have Dr. Erges from USF. I don't know if she wanted to introduce herself again, but she's a professor in engineering.
And I think she, yeah, hi. There.
Hi.
All right, so we'll go ahead and start out. Julie and I sort of have broken the presentation into 2 halves, and then the second part of the presentation we'll have questions from y'all. You can ask us about our science, about our projects, about our career paths, our education, really anything you want to talk about. So I'll go ahead and get us started. As I said, my name's Leanne, and I'm a graduate student at USF. A little bit of my background is I got a Bachelor of Science in Geosciences for my undergrad, and then I worked as a hydrologist for a few years. And now I'm in grad school getting a Master's of Science in Hydrology. And I'm going to talk to y'all a little bit about vernal pool wetlands. And my wetlands that I study for my graduate work are located in north central California, as you can see in this outline in the map here. And they're very different from the wetlands that Julia is going to talk to y'all about a little bit later, and the wetlands that you're familiar with in Florida. And they're very dry, but they are still wetlands. As you can see this picture here to the left, it doesn't really look like a wetland at all at this point in time when the picture was taken. And then over here to the right, we have the aerial view. And as you can see, it looks very, very dry. It doesn't look green really at all. And then you do have those river outlines on there. And up here, this is where the wetlands are. And at this time, it doesn't look like there's any water in them at all, but they are still classified as wetlands because during other parts of the year, they are very wet. And this is a picture of me in one of the wetlands. During the rainy season, they do fill up with water, and then they'll be inundated with water for up to several months of the year. And so they are wetlands, even though they're dry a lot of the year. And this is really important because there are some specialized and endangered species that are plants and animals that may only live in these very specialized environments. They're adapted to this environment where they have water for just a few months of the year, and then the landscape gets very, very dry for the remainder of the year. And so since they're adapted to these specialized environments, they're at risk if those environments get destroyed. And some of these species are even endangered. So my work focuses on demonstrating that these wetlands are important to the ecosystem around them, and even to the human ecosystems as well, because there are rivers around, and their waters are sourced from these vernal pool wetlands. And so I wanted to show you guys a little bit about some of the data collection and analysis that I do with these wetlands, and then talk about a little bit of the modeling. So basically, how we're able to show that these wetlands are in fact connected downstream to the river and why they're important. And so if you look at this aerial photograph over to the left on my screen, up here where my cursor is, where it says Area 13, that's where the wetlands that I study are. And then if you sort of follow my cursor down through the river, you can see, these are mapped rivers, by the way. The blue lines that you see are made in a mapping software, and so you don't always see the water connection from the aerial view. But if you follow down, you can see that this river here, which doesn't flow all of the year, is connected to the Sacramento River, which is a really important water source for the people in California and farming, agricultural activities, cities, and not to mention the plants and animals of the ecosystems around. So my work basically tries to demonstrate that there is water sourced here and that flows to the Sacramento River. And so the way we're able to see that in the data is we have what we call gauges, which measure water level at a series of 8 sites along this track. So we start up in the wetland, and then we have these water level measurements that are continuously taking water levels all the way through the system down to the river. And so if you look over here at this series of graphs that I have, you can see starting at the wetland, and then the slightly larger stream, and a little bit larger streams to the Sacramento River. This here on the bottom is time, and then this y-axis here is water level. You can see the what we call the peaks in the water levels. So basically what this is showing is there's been a rain event, there's been a storm, and so you can see what we call a chasing peaks analysis, where you can trace, I don't know if you guys can see those little red dots, they're kind of small, but basically you can chase the peaks of each of these curves down through this area here, and you can see the water moving in the data to show that it is in fact moving from the wetlands and then through the different stream systems down to the river. And that's part of the work that I do. Julie,
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really interesting. I like that it makes a lot of sense. I'm sure, you know, it's in science and in data collection, we often get these snapshots in time, right? We get pictures of things happening kind of one moment at a time. And to really make sense of something like where does the water go after a rain event, you have to get lots of different data points and kind of merge them all together and look at a graph, something like what's on your screen, to actually follow the water. It's kind of hard to do that sometimes in real time. So super interesting. Thank you. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about 7 wetlands. It's different than Leanne's system. Her system is a natural wetland. 7 wetlands is actually a constructed wetland. So it was built to get some of these benefits that natural wetlands provide to us. And I'm going to share, if I can figure this out, share screen. Give me 1 second. Let's see. So 7 wetlands. Leanne, can you see this?
Yes, I see a beautiful gator.
Okay.
That's
awesome.
a big
So
alligator.
it is a big alligator. Yeah. So wetlands, you know, obviously the water is very important. They have, you know, wet is in their name, but they're also home, like Leanne said, to lots of threatened or endangered plants and animals. 7 wetlands, which again is a constructed wetland, so it's a built system. Nonetheless, it's still very important habitat for plants and animals. And so this is just our web page, 7 wetlands, just a couple pictures here of critters and plants that actually live at the wetland. And I get to do, as a wetland scientist, I get to study a lot of different types of things. So it's not just the water, it's not just the plants or the animals. Sometimes it's merging all of those data points together to make conclusions or further questions, which is usually what happens in science. You don't get too many theories, I guess. You just get more questions. So it's really fun. I think that's part of being a scientist, is that curiosity of, you know, a spark in your brain, like the what is that or why is that? And that's never really left me. Anyway, side note, so this is our 7 Wetlands homepage, and I just wanted to show you real quick this drop down to iNaturalist. So iNaturalist is an awesome free app that basically, this is kind of how it works. Anybody can do it. It's a citizen scientist app. So I think, Leanne, can you see this little graphic? Yes. Okay, great. Basically, you can use this for plants or animals or fungus, really anything. You snap a picture of it. That's an observation, or making an observation of the thing that you see, like the giant alligator from the last screen. And it gets posted to iNaturalist, which is just a community database of observations. Lots of other people just like us will verify that observation, that is in fact an alligator that you just took a picture of, and then it gets posted to a project. And so at 7 Wetlands, we have a big iNaturalist project here with almost 1,000 observations, over 950 observations. Again, this is stuff this is high schoolers and elementary schoolers and college students and anybody that has this app. All of this data is open to the public. So through this, export observations over here. So basically, I just wanted to show you again a little bit of graphs and data, kind of how you can use data points to visually represent something in the form of a chart. And the reason why you do that is to help you get some perspective on the data. So let me give you an example. I'm going to show you an Excel spreadsheet. So basically, I just exported raw data into an Excel sheet. There's a ton of stuff in this page, right? This tab. It probably doesn't mean too much. If you were looking through this, this is just really kind of overwhelming. And so we need to graph it to make it make sense to us as humans and kind of answer some questions about it. So this is my titles here. I again exported this data, and so I just broke it down. So I wanted to look at what kingdoms, right? We have our kingdoms in iNaturalist. You know this from biology: kingdoms, phylums, class, orders, etc. What kingdoms have we observed at 7 wetlands? And we have 3. We have 3 out of the 5 listed on iNaturalist, right? And all I did, I know that now because I graphed it. I would not have known that if it was just a raw observation. So I wanted to take, okay, here's animals, right? Out of my animal kingdom, what did we find? Well, by far it was insects, the most insects. That's awesome. I love bugs. I love insects. But let's look at our mammals, right? I'm just breaking down the data kind of into smaller and smaller chunks. So from the animals, this is what we have: armadillos, hogs, bobcats, raccoons, etc. And that's basically how you can, you know, take something, a big data set, and just break it down into a manageable graph that lets you then, oh, that makes sense, right? It's analyzing the data a little bit more and drawing more observations from it. So yeah, the wetland is really cool. Wetlands are awesome. I will stop sharing my screen. Leanne, do you want to post our home splash page back up there again with our names for everybody?
Yes, I will get it back.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So does anybody have any questions or any comments, or did you know, does this relate to anything that you're learning about in school, or was anything really interesting to you? Do you want to know anything more? You know, for Leanne or myself, you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask a question. You can type it into the chat box. Do we have any teachers?
I'm a student. I have a question about iNaturalist.
Yes.
So it's an app. So it's downloadable for anybody, and the process that's listed on the website is all it takes to like get it through and get information about whatever it is. Like it's a mobile app.
It's a mobile app. It's really user friendly. It's kind of awesome. It's global, so there are worldwide scientists that are collecting and using this data, and really the collectors are just in us. They're everyday people that have an app on their phone, and you know, that's one of the beauties of technology, I think, is that we carry around our phones wherever we go. And so, well, that's probably a separate discussion, but one of the benefits of having your phone with you all of the time is that you can collect data. So you can snap a picture of a tree or anything in your backyard. You see a really cool butterfly. You're like, what is that butterfly? Take a picture of it, upload it to the database. The software will try and give you a recommendation. So the software will take that observation that you just collected, that you just made, compared against millions of other images in the database, give you a suggestion of, I think you just took a picture of a golf fritillary butterfly. You can say, yep, I think so. 2 other humans have to agree to that. And then it becomes a research grade observation that anybody, again, can get that data. It's pretty cool. check it out.
Mhm.
Good question.
I also have a question for Leanne.
Sure.
So like, what you do is really cool. I think it's really cool. But like, what's your like long-term goal with your work? As like, especially in like California, like, what do you plan on? Like, what do you want to achieve in the future? Like, as a big goal?
As a big goal, sort of like a career size goal?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, I'm getting my master's degree right now, and then I am planning to continue on into the PhD program at USF. I'm hopefully working on the same system with the vernal pools in California. And after that, I guess I'm not really sure. Sort of with the PhD programs, it kind of depends on what you specialize in as far as what job you end up in. And so I am in the second year of my master's degree, so it's still a little bit early for me to know, but there's a lot of options. There's academia, and previously when I was working as a hydrologist, I was working at a research institute. And so basically that was sort of like a university that did all the research, but without any teaching. And so that's another option. You can go into consulting, you can go work for some sort of governmental organization, kind of like Julie does. As far as me personally, I'm still trying to figure it out, but there are lots and lots of options, especially with water stuff, because water is everywhere and we need it to be cheap and clean and accessible for humans, and ecosystems are important too. And there's just a lot of possibilities. So I'm still figuring it out. And I would be really open to doing something sort of like I did with my last job. I was working out in Texas, studying aquifers there. I'm from Texas, and I thought that was really great because a lot of Texas is really dry, sort of like the California wetlands area. And so I thought it was a really great place to study water because it's so scarce out there. There's a lot of droughts. And so I felt like I could really make a difference in the communities by studying water there. So maybe something like that.
Thank you.
That's really, yeah, that's interesting. And to our students too, I think, you know, what are you all interested in? I'm in the science realm. I'm curious, who do we have kind of in the group? You know, does any of this kind of connect with you or with things that you're learning? And while you're thinking about that, I would just encourage you, if you're still in school, you're so young. There's so much opportunity, I think, and you know, you don't have to necessarily decide. I mean, even like Leanne is in grad school, and same when I was in grad school, I think there's still a lot of room for decision making and finding out, you know, what you're passionate about and what you really like. And it's okay if you try something new and you figure out that, meh, I probably don't want to do that. That's just as valid as finding something that you really love.
Absolutely.
I usually suggest to students, and maybe again, this is because I'm an engineer, is, you know, keep taking math. Sometimes, you know, that can be you know, sometimes that can be a really long path for students. And that if you kind of get off of track, because I know I dropped out of school for about 7 years when I was an undergraduate. And then when I started again, I had to retake some math classes, and that kind of held me back a little bit from, you know, getting the degree I wanted, because it's really easy to forget math. So I usually suggest, you know, for high school students, one thing, you know, even though math may not be your favorite subject, you know, it's good to take, you know, algebra and trigonometry and pre-calculus and calculus, you know, just kind of keep plugging away at it, because, you know, eventually you're going to probably need those classes in college.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's the, see, I think any science is really, you know, math is one of those foundations that you can't really get around. There's lots of different types of math though, so you might find that you're really into statistics. Math, gotta do it. It's just true. But it's fun. It can be fun too. It's one of those things, like, you know, you get the solution at the end and you're like, all right, you know, hey, pat on the back, I did it. It's math. It's fun.
Yeah, I think it also definitely gets more fun when you get to apply it to things. Like it never really clicked for me in high school and early college. I was like, I just have to take this. But then once I started applying it to stuff in geology and then in hydrology, it was way more interesting. And now I like it a lot more.
Should I ask everybody if they really like math? You can like give us a thumbs up. I'm kidding, you
Sure.
don't really have to do that. What else?
Julie, do you see any armadillos out in the wetlands? Because I used to live on the east coast of Florida, and I see armadillos all the time. And then since I moved to Tampa, I've heard that they're around, but I never see them. They must be really shy.
Yes, we do actually. We have armadillos there, as mentioned in the data. So I know this too because others have observed them. I saw more armadillos actually in Pinellas County though than I do in Hillsborough and Polk County. So I don't know. Maybe the peninsular effect keeps them keeps them within their confines. I don't know. But yeah, we see a ton of stuff, and with the iNaturalist again, I think. It's such a useful tool for data collection just because I'm not the one that has to observe everything to know that it's there. You know, other people can help do that. And even if with iNaturalist or with other observation tools, you know, scientists have been especially biologists, we've been observing animals for a long time, you know, via field journals, but having the ability to quickly share data amongst lots of different types of people is really useful. And so, and I might see a track, right, a paw print of something at the wetland, even though I didn't see a coyote, I know that a coyote was there because it left its paw print behind. And so iNaturalist is useful for that. So you can take a picture of like a paw print and that would count as a sighting of a coyote. You can't give a date to it. Well, you can give a date to like when you saw the paw print, but yeah, we have armadillos. We have lots of stuff out there. It's pretty wild. Any other questions, comments? You can chat in the chat box too if you want. Is anybody thinking about studying science, engineering, math, kind of any of those fields in college?
I'm thinking of studying like science more in the like genetic field or like biotechnology field.
Awesome. And why? What are you interested in?
Like more in research, like to find like medicines and cures for like to help out in research for like diseases and stuff like that. Yeah.
Math.
Great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's, you know, a lot of our medicines, you know, our technologies that comes from nature. We're good. Humans are good at, I don't want to say extracting because that's kind of the wrong connotation. We're good at observing our world and kind of coming up with solutions. You know, nature already did it. Let's borrow that and maybe tweak it a little bit and make, you know, medicines for us. Cool.
Yeah, I like the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things that USF has a new program, a new major. It's called medical engineering.
Ooh.
And, you know, within the College of Engineering and within the College of Medicine, there were so many different people who were doing research on things related to, you know, to healthcare and everything from mechanical engineers who were developing new like technologies for people who are disabled, you know, artificial hands, artificial legs, smart canes for people who are blind, you know, all kinds of different technologies that they were working on. I saw electrical engineers who were developing different devices for smartphones to help people who were, needing, extra help or even reminders to take their medication or exercise or do other things. Of course, the chemical engineers who were developing new medicines or new treatments, and then doctors. So they put all these people together in this new major of medical engineering. So it's really exciting to see this collaboration among people who have different disciplines working together. So maybe you can consider that as another avenue.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Anyone else? Other questions?
Okay, well, I think we'll say thank you so much for joining us. And if you do have questions, you think of stuff in the future, you want to share this with anybody, please do so. And you'll see on our screen, we have our contact information. I know I personally would be very happy to talk with anybody else, if you have any other questions or comments, that you don't want on the Zoom, that'd be great. I'll probably talk too much.
Yes, feel free to email me as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Leanne, I think I had your email address as the contact for this in the schedule that went out to the students.
Yes.
Okay, everybody, have a nice day.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.